and welcome back to the MMA Split Picks show for UFC Vegas. I can't remember what the number is because I've had a long old day and I'm hanging like a leaf. But I can tell you what the main event is. It is Max Holloway taking on Yair Rodriguez plus other fights. We will talk about the other fights. I'm going to do one of my classic rants on the fact that I think the prelims should be the main card apart from the main event, and a lot of the main card should be the prelims, but we will get to that. There's nowhere else to start but with this main event and with the question. Josh, why the fuck is this fight happening?
Max has got this classic fight anybody, anytime attitude. And, he's kind of like the top of the contender pile. So, you'd be stupid to kind of turn him down at this stage. It's fucking frustrating, though. I don't think Yair Rodriguez poses enough of a problem for me to really get too worried about this one. But still, anything can happen in MMA. Chris Curtis proved that last weekend. Fucking hell. Yeah, I've spoken a lot about how the UFC don't like doing trilogies for titles. But, if they were close fights, you were the champion to start with. We haven't really seen that scenario play out. They're going to kind of be breaking the trilogy rule for Figgy Moreno anyway, even though, again, that's a very unique circumstance. I think they'll be doing the same thing to Shevchenko.
Different from back-to-back losses.
Yeah. I think Shevchenko may, just for the money and just for a fight, move up to 35 for one more with Nunes. You never know. So, yeah, I guess some people will kind of say Holloway should maybe sit out and just get on his soapbox, keep campaigning for the rematch. It's not his style. He would never do that. So you got to just keep winning fights. I don't know. I'm guessing that you're on the same side of this as me. You think it's ridiculous that Holloway's fighting anyone other than the champion right now? Just
listen, man.
Where the fuck are we?
Those two fights, in a lot of the other situations, there's at least one of the two back-to-back fights that is pretty dominant. I mean, Usman's been, the Colby fight was a close fight, okay, but at least one's a sort of definitive finish, if you know what I mean. He has that, even though the fights are close, you can kind of make the argument of, I beat the guy pretty well at least one time and pretty well the next time. And I feel with Max's situation, those two fights are so razor thin. There is so much controversy about the second fight. So many people, Dana White thinks that Max won that fight the second time round. So what's going to happen at the end of the day is Max is either going to probably dominate most of these other guys until we start seeing maybe a Giga Chikadze come in. Certainly, I think there's a danger that you can always get caught, particularly with a guy like Yair. But it doesn't seem necessary. It doesn't prove anything. It doesn't really establish anything. If he wins, he's in no different situation than he was before he took this fight. And I think what annoys me about this is if they had booked this with Giga Chikadze, I would have said, and I know that injury meant that, Giga had his big fight against Barbosa after the original date that Max was meant to fight Yair. So that's kind of been affected things as well. But Yair Rodriguez does not deserve this fight. This guy's just come on the back of a 6-month suspension, not for even tested, for something even more suspicious. On more than three times, he did not report his whereabouts, which the first time it's like, okay, people forget. The second, and just in one calendar year. The second time it's like, come on, mate, get your shit together. Third time it's like, what the fuck are you doing? What is wrong with you? You are hiding something. You must be hiding something at this point. No one is this incompetent. And now he's getting rewarded with the second biggest fight in the division. It doesn't make sense from Max's side. It doesn't feel deserved for Yair's side. I don't know whether they're just really hoping that he just gets annihilated and that kind of deals with the problem. If it's not that, whoever Yair Rodriguez's agent is, everyone needs to hire this guy. Because Yair barely fights, constantly has issues, not with just injury, but with obviously suspension as well. Isn't always the easiest person to deal with when he does fight. And yet he constantly has just been moving up and up. And really, you look at it and it's like, who's he really fought? He fought Zombie and a Jeremy Stevens that gave him a tough run, and a Jeremy Stevens that has not looked like Jeremy Stevens for a few years now.
Yeah, I mean, he did beat Frankie Edgar. No, sorry,
Did
lost to
not beat
Frankie Edgar,
Frankie
but
Edgar.
he did beat, yeah, did beat BJ Penn, is what I meant to say. Sorry. The Korean Zombie
Featherweight
one,
BJ Penn does not count.
he just kicked the head off an old man. Truth be told, the Korean Zombie one, in my mind, doesn't fucking count. Really, he was getting his ass whooped, and then just pulls out this wonder elbow in like the last second of the fight. Just insane. If people didn't hate Yair so much, that would be a much more of an iconic moment. I mean, this guy was technically cut once as well, just for refusing to fight Magomed Sharipov, and just for generally being a fucking hassle to work with. I think he's just being fed to Max. It's kind of a win-win, because Max is kind of in a bit of a rut, as the UFC see it, booking wise, having lost twice to Volk. Then you've got Yair Rodriguez, massive pain in the ass. It would be hard to sell a title fight between him and Volkanovski right now, unless he pulls off a miracle and gets some highlight KO against Max, or some really fierce competitive decision against him. So, as the
That's
UFC see it, whoever wins this fight, it boosts the pay-per-view numbers. Volkanovski needs a contender. They just want to make bank on it. But yeah, it's kind of a shame when you've got, I don't know. I suppose they don't want to feed someone like Arnold Allen to Max right now. Giga Chikadze is one that they might want to keep sort of further down the line, much the same way they want to keep Izzy and Costa separated until it was, headlining a pay-per-view. Yeah, I guess for me, it kind of makes sense. You need to sell this fight night. You either get Max, back on the horse, so to speak, or, you make Yair Rodriguez just slightly more marketable.
I
Either
get
way,
you.
it's kind of like a placeholder fight, isn't it? It's just,
They
you need to generate contenders.
This should have been Max versus Giga. If they wanted to give Max another fight to prove that he's a number one contender, and I know that Giga wasn't the man in the position that he's in now when they first booked Max to fight Yair, but as soon as that fight fell apart on the first date, and then they see the Barbosa fight with Chikadze, that should have been the match that they looked to put together. Because at the very least, then you can argue two best other guys in the division based on what we're seeing and the records at the moment, aside from the champ. Maybe you can put Ortega into that mix as well. I don't know how Ortega would do against Giga. I think he needs I think he's still got a lot to work on with his stand-up and certainly his wrestling before I want to see him come back against an opponent of that level. That's where my mind's at. In terms of the technical aspects of it, the only worry I have with this is that the kind of cheat code to beat Yair is pressure, takedown, and beat up on the ground. That's what we've seen works. We saw Jeremy Stevens have his most amount of success doing that in the second half of the second round and the third round of their second fight. And obviously we saw what happened with Frankie Edgar. I feel like Max is going to be able to bring the pressure, but it only takes one completely wild 360-degree tornado kick, jumping scissor kick, backwards rising duck elbow, and it's a different fight. And it's not to say that it would be deserved. It's not to say that it would be merited. And I'd be really, really surprised if Yair wins this by outclassing Max. You see what I mean? Now, it might happen. He's really quick on his feet, but he also fades. Pause.
Yeah, well, crucially as well, he has not ever fought a striker anywhere near Max's level. This is the biggest, stiffest challenge to date for Yair.
Sorry, mate, didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back through Max's record. No, you're good. Sorry, it cut out for a little bit, so I didn't even realize you were. like Yair Rodriguez has some wild stuff. He's a big guy. He can be quite explosive and dynamic, but he's not always technically sound. He deviates from the game plan quite a lot. He can get quite sloppy. The fight with Caceres, although it was a while ago, it was just like a little bit ridiculous. And where that can look really good against the very stationary, not ready for it BJ Penn, against a guy like Max Holloway, I think he's just going to be whiffing and getting hit a lot. I just really, I think Max has this on so many levels. So I'd say Calvin Cater is as good, if not a slightly better stand-up guy than Yair. It's just he doesn't have the same sort of ridiculous knockout.
Well, it's a different style, man. It's a very different style. With Katie, you basically only have to worry about the hands, but the hands are fucking brilliant. With Yair, it's everything at kicking range. It's all that distance that Max has to cover before he gets into the mid and close range where he's going to be at his most effective.
Yeah, so Max obviously has got fights against McGregor, although he did lose that one, and McGregor did black his knee after I think the first round. Charles Oliveira, although back then his stand-up wasn't as crisp, he was very much like a grappling threat. But
Also,
Anthony Pettis and Jose Aldo twice.
That fight was the
Two
neck
guys with great
injury as well,
kicks.
man. The Charles Oliveira fight was the neck injury.
Oh yeah, that only went like about a minute and a half, didn't
Exactly. You didn't really see it.
Yeah, I remember that one now.
I mean, the Pettis fight.
The thing is, Max has done well with awkward guys, classically good guys. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh mate, the lag's pretty bad, I've got to say. It's a good like 3 or 4 seconds. And we are back. We are back. Audio only for the remainder of this episode due to Wi-Fi and Zoom being a bastard and all of these annoying things. But hopefully that means we're going to have a little bit less lag and come through loud and clear for you guys. And we were just talking about Max Holloway taking on Yair Rodriguez. We were looking at stylistically who Max has fought previously. I kind of feel that Anthony Pettis is the sort of the most similar that you could sort of pull to. He's that guy that has the kicks, that taekwondo background, that ability to fight well at kicking range. And that's probably the closest benchmark, I'd say, to Yair Rodriguez's style. Would you agree, Josh?
Yes, although I wouldn't disregard also people like Clay Collard, who have a very awkward style, because Yair Rodriguez isn't kind of like a polished kicking machine in the same way that Pettis is, and he certainly can't mix in any kind of like the same submission game. But in terms of like when the offense is actually coming at him, yeah, it's going to look a lot like Pettis. The ways in which he's going to attack, the rhythm, the flow of the fight might be more similar to a guy like Collard. Obviously, Collard does it more with his boxing, whereas Yair Rodriguez just sort of spams these video game style kicks. Either way, it's an interesting puzzle for a lot of guys. I don't think Max Holloway is going to struggle with it. I think he's too fast, too good, too technical, too ever present. I mean, shit. You know, there's a reason he wants to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. It's because he truly believes he's the best. And you know, a lot of people believe the same thing about him. It's the Blessed Express, God damn it.
An incredible stat that was revealed during his incredible record-breaking win against Calvin Kattar. He has never been knocked down. That is just mental to me. Not knocked out. And yes, he has been tapped out. He got tapped out by Poirier. But he has never been knocked out. Not even knocked down. Not once has anyone hit him with something that's taken him off his feet. And that on its own is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and you know, he doesn't look like a guy that's necessarily going to take a lot of damage in the classical sense. You know, he's quite a tall, lean guy. You look at some of the people he's fought: Leonard Garcia, Dennis Bermudez had heavy hands, Conor McGregor, Collard, Cole Miller, not necessarily a knockout guy, but a big boy nonetheless. Cub Swanson, Jeremy Stevens, Ricardo Lamas. That is an incredible stat.
Yeah, not to mention, you know, and I know maybe not knockouts artists, but like you say, Pettis, Volkanovski, you could put into that, Aldo twice, the number of times he's fought former lightweight champions. You know, this guy has unbelievable, and it doesn't get talked about enough. His chin is out of this world. And even in the Cater fight, you know, they've popped that as the free fight on YouTube. And I'm watching this fight. He still gets hit with some fucking big shots from a heavy hitter in the division. And at no point takes a backward step.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing with that style is it works until it doesn't. Guys that kind of rely on their chin die by their chin. You know, once Chuck Liddell looked chinny, it was all over. Frankie Edgar's going for a similar kind of decline. I don't think Holloway's anywhere near that point, but yeah, he's been in some wars. I don't think this one's going to be a war, though. I don't think it's going to be an early knockout either. I'm thinking maybe third, fourth round. But I think Max is just kind of going to put it on him and only have to eat the occasional shot.
Well, when it comes down to 5 round fights, Max does have a tendency to build as the rounds go on. So I don't see it being early either. I'm going to say fourth round TKO.
Nice, both going Holloway. Is Sly going to send in any picks for this one?
No, I think he's just going to skip this
He's
one.
going head to head this week.
We're head to head on this one,
Fair
mate.
enough.
Ben Rothwell, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. It's a co-main event because they're heavyweights and they're probably paying Ben Rothwell some money. Every time I pick against Ben Rothwell, he surprises me, and then every time I decide I'm getting back on the Rothwell train, he screws me over and loses. So I don't know what to think about this. Rogerio de Lima, who did he beat in his last fight? Morris Green. Doesn't really say that much, but
even at 205, this guy wasn't that impressive.
Yeah. Fuck it, I'll go Rothwell. Rothwell by decision.
Nice. I'm finding some separation. I'm going Rothwell by sub. I think Big Ben's got a nasty bag of tricks. Rogerio de Lima, he has been tapped before. I think that he's not really a true heavyweight. He's not the smallest heavyweight, but he's not, he's filled out to near enough, like the 265 limit, but he doesn't carry it the same way Rothwell does. He might look kind of more muscular than Rothwell, but he just doesn't carry the weight in the same way. And yeah, Big Ben's going to put it on him, use all his veteran savvy. And I think as soon as Rogerio de Lima makes a mistake, Rothwell's going to be able to snatch something nasty out of there.
Yeah, I could certainly see that happening. Felicia Spencer. Man, this girl's been on a bit of a rough run. Went 8-0, started in the UFC brilliantly. Then they made her fight Cyborg, followed by Nunes, and then the Norma Dumont fight, which, I mean, Norma Dumont's good. I don't think that was Felicia Spencer's best night by any stretch, but I think it kind of woke everybody's eyes up to there's a difference between being, really good and a difference between, compared to not looking that bad in a loss against excellent fighters. I think there's we're seeing that separation there. But she's fighting Leah Letson, who I do not know anything about. And I think she is going to bounce back from that. I think she's actually going to be up against somebody that's probably in the region of who she should be fighting and the level of who she would be fighting if she was in any other weight class apart from featherweight.
Yeah, Leah Letson was one of the girls that Macy beat on her way to the Ultimate Fighter season finale. This very much is, Felicia's level. This is exactly who she should be fighting. And the winner of this fight is probably going to go on to some kind of title eliminator because that is the state of the featherweight division. But are you excited for this one at all?
Not really, man. To be honest, I was actually surprised that they were still booking featherweight fights.
Yeah, they really do seem undecided about what way they're going with this division. I guess until Nunes retires, they do need to keep, generating a title challenger for her. Felicia Spencer, she should theoretically have to do a lot to earn that rematch, but in this shallower division, if she gets 2 wins in a row, she's probably going to make as good a case as any for the next title shot.
Well, I think there's
sad
also
state of affairs.
I think there's a benefit to featherweight as well, where, let's say, particularly with a division like bantamweight, where you have got some of these kind of older, sort of big names that are still kind of hanging around. It's not, Duran Durandamy might have a fight where she just doesn't want to cut the weight or takes a short notice fight, and they have a confirmed legitimate weight class that fight can then happen at, if you see what I mean, rather than having to make it like a catch weight fight. So I think just having it as a sort of wiggle room for that bantamweight division isn't the worst thing in the world. They've got to shit or get off the pot in terms of filling it. Like, I know you can say that there's fewer female fighters at featherweight compared to the other divisions, but you know, Bellator's got a decent featherweight women's division, so they're out there somewhere, you know.
Oh, for sure. I'm only talking about the UFC's featherweight division when I say this.
Of course.
Uh, they are always reluctant to kind of add these extra weight classes. You know, there's no men's straw weight, there's no women's atom weight. It'll be a long time before they'd even consider a women's lightweight in the UFC. Featherweight was something they wanted to build around Cyborg, and now it's very much just kind of built around their dual champion Nunes. I wouldn't be surprised if in 5-10 years' time there is a very good, very competitive featherweight division in the UFC for the women. I wouldn't be surprised if it disappeared until then.
I'll tell you what seems strange for me on this one, though, and we look at men's flyweight. I'm not saying it's going to be a great division, but you literally need 15 people. Like, that's it. 15 people, and you can actually have rankings. You can have things that make sense. Men's flyweight had fucking nobody fighting in it for ages. Barely had more than 15 to make up the numbers. And it still doesn't have that many fighters compared to the other divisions. But they've got good fighters in those divisions. There's an order, there's an understanding, there's a hierarchy, there's fun fights for the champion.
Yeah, they did purge that division, though, before it got good.
True.
You know, they almost wiped that division out. And then, you know, Henry beats Dillashaw. And then, you know, Dillashaw pops, Henry moves up, gets the vacant bantamweight belt. And then Henry leaves, and you think, well, that's probably going to be it for flyweight. And then 125 all of a sudden just got really deep and really exciting all over again. Can't get my words out today, Matt.
But the point still stays that they cut a bunch of people and the division was able to be exciting without having that many numbers in it. So the evidence is there. You need enough to have rankings, but you can get away with only having that. So I think that's the real shame, is that how hard is it really to sign another 6 girls, 7 girls?
Well, yeah. And when you've got a vessel, you know, a vehicle for it, like Contender Series, I think it'd be a fucking no-brainer. Who knows what Dana thinks?
Who knows? Let's wrap this up, because we've talked about this fight far more than we should. I just think Felicia Spencer's going to get this done. I don't know enough about Leah Letson to really say what she's going to bring to the fight, but I think this is the kind of opponent that Felicia Spencer will be able to sort of instill her kind of smothering, grappling approach. And I think she's going to get a sub somewhere in the second or third round.
Oh, more separation. I've gone Spencer by decision.
You say separation, but we're still all on the left side of the card. I think that's
but I picking head to head. Sorry, I was thinking there's a much better chance the methods are going to come into it.
True, particularly on this main event card. Roman Dolidze stepping in on short notice to replace Kevin Holland, and is fighting Carl Dalkas.
This one's been scrapped.
What?
Dolidze's had someone pop for COVID in his camp, so this one's cancelled as of this morning or yesterday, I believe.
Carl Dalkas will be fresh to run it back with Kevin Holland when he's over his injury.
Rematch Holland, yeah.
Man, they just won't let him. The gods will not let him get away from that fight, will they?
No, I mean, I almost feel for Carl Dalkas, but as a fan, this is the best opportunity, I think, to get that good fight going again. Also, Dolidze, no, you know, nothing against him. Another of them Storm and Georgians. I don't know. I was almost leaning towards Dolidze. So hard to say. It's just he hasn't fought anyone near the level of like a Carl Dalkas or a Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, Carl Dalkas is a rematch I fucking want to see. I was kind of excited for that fight the first time around. we didn't really get it the way we wanted it. Let's just fucking make that happen.
Agreed. Okay. Song Yudong taking on Julio Arce. This is going to be an absolute fucking cracker. Both guys can swing. Both guys love to box. Both guys like to knock their opponents out. I just think Song Yudong is young, hungry, ready, getting better every single fight. And I picked against him last time, and he made me look very foolish for it. So I think I'm going Song Yudong. I'm going to say decision. I think Arce is so fucking tough. I don't see him getting knocked out.
Yeah, he's pretty big at bantamweight as well. You know, he looked good against Yule at 35. So I think it's going to be a fun fight. I'm leaning Song Yudong by decision as well on this one.
Very nice. Now, let's talk about these prelims, because there are fights on here that I'm looking at and I'm like, obviously with Delitse versus Daukaus getting scrapped, one of these fights will move up. But just, I'm going to quick, before we do the picks, Thiago Moises taking on, oh God, it's gone off my screen, Joel Alvarez. That's
Alvarez.
Joel Alvarez. That's a great fight. Cynthia Calvillo versus Andra Lee. What are we talking about here? Those are two ranked fighters, and they're on the prelims. Miguel Baeza, absolute fucking beast, against Chaos Williams, absolute fucking beast. How is that not on the main card? It's just insane. And instead, we're going to be watching Rothwell versus Nogueira. Not Nogueira, fucking Rogerio de Lima. That's the one. Rothwell versus Nogueira would be a hell of a fight.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, even in Chechiku against Darren Young, like opening up the prelims,
that's a joke.
Definitely belongs on the main card.
That's a joke.
You know, there's still some name value that I can sacrifice to the prelims. You know, Mark Shikaze against Rafael Alves. Yeah, fair enough. Keep it on the prelims. I don't mind. But when you've got light heavyweights in what is sure to be a very violent, very exciting fight, sure, if you want to try and draw people in, because it is a fight night after all, you know, no one's going to be paying for the pay-per-view. If you just want to get viewers in for like a large duration to cover like the advertising spread, yeah, sure, put an exciting one at the start. But you know, it's the only other fight over middleweight, actually only other fight over welterweight now, right? With Delitse Daukaus out. Jesus. Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Sorry, what was that?
Did Nzekuchu Kennedy is that light heavyweight? Baeza Williams is.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's the only other big fight. You're right.
So yeah, having Caramel Thunder against Chaos and then Chechiku against Darren Young, kind of more or less bookending the prelims, kind of makes sense. But then put Moises Alvarez on the main card and Calvillo against Andrea Lee is a fucking no-brainer for the main card.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. Felicia Spencer, Leah Letson only really deserves to be on the main card because assuming that the winner of this wins their next fight, they'll probably be fighting for the title. That's the only reason.
You make a good point, and it is total course wrap. Let's do the picks. Thiago Moises taking on Joel Alvarez. I can't look past Moises for this. I know he lost against Makhachev, but a lot of people are going to lose against Makhachev. And I'll tell you what, he did a fuckload better than Dan Hooker did.
Yeah. And he seems really hungry for this one. And, you know, Alvarez, I've only really, you know, seen his ground game tested a little bit. I think Moises does very well against guys that he's able to land more takedowns on than he receives. The only reason I'm thinking that Moises' decision might be a stupid pick is because Moises seems so fired up for the finish on this one. I feel like I haven't got all the way behind him not picking the finish. But I'm going to be conservative. I'm going to see Moises by decision. I think he's going to get 2 or 3 takedowns. And, you know, I either take a clear 3-round decision or at least take 2 rounds of the still young, still growing Alvarez, who still, I think, has an exciting future in the UFC. It's just a bad matchup for him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I'm going to say Moises. I'm going for that decision. I'm going by sub.
It's always weird. I'm looking at his records, and it is pretty much all subs. But I swear to God, Amrath is more of a stand-up, exciting striker kind of guy. Sort of
Um,
like a less ridiculous Yair, but
we were having this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Remember with Alex Caceres, where we think of him as this kind
yeah.
of like flamboyant striker, but he's got loads of submission wins on his record.
Just thinking, like, I remember the Joe Duffy fight. Um, kind of remember the Ismagulov fight that he lost. Yeah, the Yakovlev, Beloardo. Actually, the Beloardo one was ground and pound. But yeah, Jesus Christ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 8 subs. 9. I'm bad at counting. At least 9 subs on the record there.
A lot of subs.
Apologies, Holloway, but I still think of you as a stand-up man.
You're a stand-up guy, you are. You really are. Let's look at Cynthia Calvillo taking on Andrea Lee. This should be Cynthia's, in my mind. I always feel like Andrea Lee's kind of flattered to deceive. You know, there's a lot to like there, but I don't think she's got anything. She hasn't got a complete game, and I don't think she's really good enough in any one aspect to kind of stand out. I think the fact that she's kind of been dropping down and down and down the rankings as the divisions become a little bit deeper kind of tells you that she's finding where her place in that division is. Having said that, I don't think Cynthia Calvillo deserves to be in at number 5. I think she had that win against Jessica Eye, which rocked her right up when she moved up from strawweight. And since then, she had the loss to Andrade, and she had the loss to, what's-her-face, Caitlin Chukagian. And neither of those fights were particularly close. Having said that,
yeah,
she's got the wrestling, and I think Andrea Lee struggles most with people that can take her down and keep her on her back.
Oh, definitely. And in much the same way that Calvillo's kind of found that she can't quite hang with the Chicadians and the Andrades of the world, Andrea Lee has found that she can't hang with the likes of, Calderwood, Murphy, and Modafferi. And yeah, that's kind of the same sort of bracket that you want to put Calvillo in with her wrestling and a submission game. I think Cynthia's going to take this one by decision, but I think it's awful close.
I'm going Cynthia's decision.
I think she's noticeably different, noticeably better, discernibly better. It's still MMA, anything can happen. And Andrea Lee can, get in a girl's face. But yeah, Cynthia Calvillo should have this one by decision.
I agree. I think what we're about to talk about is going to be, aside from Holloway versus Rodriguez, the best fight on the card. Miguel Baeza against Chaos Williams, I think, is either going to be a spectacular finish or absolutely nuts. Because Chaos Williams, he has an intensity to him when he fights. And, I mean, you look at the fight against Semi the Jedi, the way that he just ended Al Hassan in less than 30 seconds. Ended the human being. Obviously, Hassan's come back as a middleweight and looks, fantastic in his last fight. But he very much ended that welterweight run. Baeza, who did he lose to? He lost
Ponzinibbio.
Ponzinibbio. There is no shame in losing to Ponzinibbio. And if I recall, that fight was all Baeza. All Baeza until Ponzi was able to deal with the leg kicks and start utilizing his jab. I don't know what's going to happen in this one. My gut's telling me chaos, but I'm not 100% sure. What's your thoughts?
I'm leaning Caramel Thunder. I think Chaos Williams is fighting smarter and smarter all the time. I think Baeza is going to be able to stand up to the power shots a little bit. He's not going to be, too put off or intimidated. He's going to carry on moving forward and put up a lot of volume and pressure on Williams. I just think he's a slightly better technical fighter. I think he's going to be able to do a little more than Williams can. I don't think he's going to get caught the same way that a guy like Al Hassan did. But anything can happen. I'm going to go Baeza by decision. I'm also thinking it would be pretty unlikely this one actually goes all 3 rounds. I'm kind of in 2 minds about all of it, Matt. I really don't know. I'm still going Baeza. Yeah, fuck it. Decision. Baeza decision. How are you thinking?
I'm going Williams, mate. We've actually got our first genuine separation on the card.
Nice.
It's
That's
only
happening
taken
eventually.
6 fights for us to have a difference of opinion. And there's not a huge amount of rhyme or reason to it. It's just they're both really good, but Chaos Williams scares me. The man is locked in. I think one of my all-time favorite moments in the last year or so, not in the calendar year, but in the last year or so of watching UFC, was watching him stare down Al Hassan as Al Hassan was dancing into the cage on his workout, looking really happy, and then it just cuts to Chaos Williams, who is just death staring this man as he's walking in, doesn't even blink. So I
He
think
is
he's
an
going to get it
intense
done.
individual.
Yeah, he trained the gym. Apparently, the gym he trains at is fucking nuts. They just slaughter the fucking shit out of each other on a daily basis.
Again, not good for the chin.
No, and tell you who trains at that gym is Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, they've got another UFC fighter there as well, haven't they?
Jamal Hill.
Fuck. Yeah, that's it. Jamal Hill.
Intense
Fucking
individuals, all of them.
yeah. If you haven't got a nice, smart technical protocol for sparring, those are not the sparring partners you want.
No. Let's quickly go through the rest of these fights. We've got Sean Woodson. Ooh, really whistled there. Sean Woodson coming back against Colin Anglin. Sean Woodson, was it his last fight or the previous one where he had the last minute loss?
I think
he
it
was
was the one
fighting
before.
Pineda.
Let me look it up. Sorry.
Maybe it was a Rosa.
Obviously, with the technical issues, our internet's not going great. Yeah, no, yeah. He got dashed by a roaster. I think it was 2 fights ago.
That's right.
Yeah, roaster 2 fights ago. He came back and beat Yusuf Zalal.
That's right.
Split decision, mind, but back on the winning, back in the win column.
His boxing is ridiculously smooth. Like his hands just flow out. He uses that reach really well. But I do feel like he's it's all boxing. You know what I mean? There's very few kicks. There's very little sort of variation in style and approach with his punches. You know, there's no kind of like elbows or, you know, he is a boxer and he does it really well. It's not going to take him all the way to the top, if you know what I mean.
No, I know what he's saying. Although the sniper moniker's well earned, he really is a technician with that jab. But he's got like this, you know, awkward frame and posture to him. I don't know how smooth he would be in the kicking game without telegraphing it or without leaving himself a little off balance to get countered. On the other side, Colin Anglin, I only really remember him for being on the wrong end of that Baghdasarian debut. I can't remember him from the Contender Series. Obviously, he's got a fantastic record. The only blemish, the Baghdasarian fight and one of his early fights. I just really like Woodson. You know, I do really like Woodson's boxing. I think his jab's great. I'm going to say Woodson by decision.
Yeah, we're going 2s on that one, mate.
This is going to be one of those weeks where I only get 2 or 3 right between us, isn't it?
Probably.
Last time we were this honed in on everything.
Well, if it helps, I'm literally picking the last 3 on familiarity, nothing more. Courtney Casey against Liana Jojua. Yeah, I'll go Courtney Casey. She's been on the back of a couple of tough ones, but she's owed a winner.
Yeah, it is hard to pick against Casey. She can be a really exciting fighter. I'm going Casey by decision as well.
I'll go Casey sub. Mark Diakasey taking on Rafael Alves. I can't pick against Diakasey, even though he hasn't necessarily earned it in his last few fights. There's always that hope. Diakasey by knockout.
Yeah, same. I'm going with the Bone Crusher, Casey by decision.
Now, this is the other one we might be different on. I don't think we're going to be different, but we might be. Kennedy Nzechukwu. Kennedy Nzechukwu. Fucking got it. Yes, finally. Against Da Jung. I feel like Jung is the sensible pick, but I just can't help but root for this guy, Kennedy. Just every fight, he just finds a way to come back.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm picking him. And I'm picking him by KO as well.
You're actually picking a KO.
Yeah, man. Kennedy takes a lot of damage. Guys getting close, beating him up, and then all of a sudden he just rocks him with that hook. It's so much easier to get a really significant concussive kind of strike on someone when their guard's down, they're tensed up, and they're just throwing to end, a fight ending shot, and then you get countered with something nice, quick, clean, tight. Those are the best knockouts. Those are the flash ones. Those, fucking McGregor against Aldo, Condit against Hardy. Just get in there with a tighter punch. I'm going in Nzechukwu by knockout. I just find it hard to pick a guy that drew a Sam Alvey. And I know that Da Jung is outstanding and had many good performances, knocking out the likes of Slow Mike, Ibrahimov. But yeah, I'm going Kennedy by KO.
Mate, we might as well carpool because we're heading in the same direction.
Hey!
I was going to say that
Nice.
earlier, but I couldn't quite remember what the phrasing was. I had to think about it in my head.
Yeah, I forgot to use it more. I'm only ashamed to use it now when Sly's around. I don't like his bored, miserable response. But I'm glad you said it.
It's all right, buddy.
So what fights have we got different here?
We've got one fight different. We fucking matched, mate.
And it
on every
was
single fight apart from
Baeza
Miguel
Williams.
Baeza versus Chaos Williams. I mean, we've got methods, so the methods are going to be the thing that fucking breaks this thing apart. And there's no way that we're going to match, that we're going to get a tie on the methods, so that's good news. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, shit, with only one fight different, we can't go to the methods now.
Oh, shit, yeah, true. Unless that fight's a draw.
Now there's two fucking reasons not to have that fight on the prelims now.
Mate, what was the card where it all came
the winner of the
down
pick's
to
too early?
Another absolute cracker? Was it Yanez versus Ricky Costa? We were matched pretty much the whole way through, and that was the only fight that we had different. But that was the week where you got like 3 right and I got 4.
Yeah. I think it was actually 2 and 3. That was a terrible, terrible week.
It wasn't the week, mate. It was not the bloody week, but shit happens.
We did fucking amazing last week. We'll say that. We mostly get them, 80% right, something stupid like that. It's just it's just that one fucking week.
It happens to everybody, man. MMA chucks in some wild underdogs wins, and there's a lot of different ways to win or lose. This isn't boxing. Talking about boxing, did you watch the Caleb Plant versus Canelo fight? Yeah.
No, I've got to be honest, I haven't even seen the highlights yet. I've been sloppy on that.
Okay, don't worry. We'll leave boxing. I'll save that for a boxing brief with Laurie at some point in the future. Other news. Did you see that Roxanne Modafferi is going to retire after her next fight?
Yes, I did see that. It's sad. Probably the right time. She seems real tight knit with her team down there. John Woods, Calder Woods. I just realised that their names are almost the same. That's not really that interesting. I think Modafferi will carry on sort of like coaching jiu-jitsu classes there and stuff. And she's an absolute legend of the sport. And it was honestly really exciting to see her get a second stint in the UFC where she was actually, a ranked fighter with title aspirations. But shit, not everyone gets to touch the golds. Chael Sonnen, no, never won the belt despite never tapping or ever losing a fight. There's lots of heartbreakers in there. Frankie Edgar never got the gold at featherweight or bantamweight probably. But yeah, Modafferi, always been a fan. It'll be sad to see her go. I'll be excited for the last fight though. It's nice to know beforehand as a fan when a fighter's retiring. It kind of sucks when you find out like, straight after that last fight they take the gloves off and you're like, oh shit, this is it. When you go into it knowing it's the retirement fight, there is like a little bit of magic to it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the worst is when it just happens like 6 months later. That's the most disappointing, when it's just people talk about it and it doesn't get confirmed, and then eventually somebody puts a statement out and says they're done.
Yeah, man. And even like Frankie Edgar was saying, he doesn't feel like retiring, but this is like the first time in his career that, after a fight, he doesn't feel like getting straight back in the gym. He kind of feels like taking a bit of a break or something.
Well, I think here's the thing. If he'd won that Marlon Vera fight, you could see a hypothetical route, where if he wins 2 or 3 in a row against the right people, he gets that fairy tale bantamweight title shot, and in his mind probably still thought, I can win the belt and fucking ride off into the sunset as a double champ, making history. I think losing to Marlon Vera, it's just the length of time back. I don't think the UFC, even if he won all the fights, would give him the number of fights he needs to get back to a title shot.
Yeah, true.
And so I think it's that realization of like, okay, maybe he doesn't want to retire, but where's a Dominic Cruz fight? Where's a fight against some of these older guys, some of the guys that maybe are going to be a fun matchup in terms of entertainment, but aren't necessarily going to be as, potentially lethal in terms of knockouts. I mean, he's been knocked out twice in a row, but it's been to Corey Sandhagen and Chito Vera. And both of these guys hit hard and can finish, and have the ability to tap into that mindset where they're just vicious in the cage. That's not the fight for Frankie at 40.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Now that the title run's basically over, it would be good to get some legacy fights in if he feels the need to fight again. Because, personally, again, a huge fan. I don't need to see him fight again just for his own health,
Yeah, but come
Guy's
on,
taking a lot of damage.
Dominic Cruz has still got it, but is Dominic Cruz really going to do significant more damage? Do you see what I mean? But that would be a fight that people would love to see. Older guys, I think that's kind of more where I'm going in the direction of, Dominic Cruz is many things, and I know that he has that knockout of Mizugagi, but that was a once in a blue moon. He is not known as a finisher.
Yeah, Uriah Faber calls him a decisionator for a reason. It's not just to get under his skin. The guy just had a very smart style, knew how to win fights without taking too much damage. Yeah, it makes sense in a lot of ways. I hope someone can sell it to Dominic Cruz like that.
Yeah. He does not want that fight, does he?
Shit. I don't think Cruz wants any fight that isn't a title fight right now.
Yeah.
And I know that's ridiculous, but that's just Dominic Cruz's mentality.
I think he's got a fight announced. I don't know who it is, but it's somebody ranked. There's somebody ranked ahead of him, who I'm not 100% sure.
I'll look it up later. My internet's absolute dog shit today.
Don't worry, mate. We'll call it a show for there.
Well, just one last thing. Got obviously Dana White is very much against Carla Esparza getting the next title shot. But Namajunas and Esparza are both campaigning for it now. I really fucking hope that helps to get it done.
They need to do that fight, man. And if I don't understand why you've just had a monster pay-per-view with a huge cell rematch and an exciting style fight and all this kind of stuff. You can squeeze this one in, you know what I mean? There's been worse title fights you've put on in the last year than Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza 2.
Yeah, Dana sees it as the benevolent oligarch is the weak oligarch. He loves to punish fighters for sitting out, and even though his word really means fuck all, he does seem, pretty motivated to try and fuck over Esparza here.
Yeah, but here's the
I
problem as well, mate.
don't really,
If Carla's last 5 wins on the streak and her streak were all by knockout, she could have sat out for a year and she'd get that title shot.
Yep, that's the way tomorrow head goes.
You know,
Such a
and
prick.
the only thing I'd say, and I do think that Dana, the more I sort of watch how they book fights and respond to kind of potential robberies and stuff like that or close decisions, the more I think that sort of in somewhere in the background, Dana's got like his own little chart of who he actually thinks won and stuff like that. And, kind of, I think that affects a lot of his decisions at times. And what I mean by that is in that streak that Carla's had, she's had a good 3 fights that I'll be perfectly honest, I thought she lost. Or at the very least drew. I didn't think she beat Maharina Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And I do wonder whether or not that's in Dana's mind, where he's like, you can't, yes, you're on a 6-fight win streak, but we've got a little scorecard in the back that says kind of it's more of a 4-2.
Yeah, I know, man. Even having the win over Namajunas, the guy just won't root for her. Still, he's a fickle prick. Hopefully, he changes his mind sooner rather than later.
Well, we're going to see on that one. It's the title fight that I want to see. I think you need to give the rest of the division time as well. There's no one else who deserves it. You've got Rodriguez that you can book in for the next one, or can fight Joanna, or can fight Wei Li, or can fight Yan Jiaonan. There's a lot of fights that need to happen before there's going to be a bit more structure about what the order is going to be for Rose's next few title defenses, assuming that she beats Carla Esparza again.
Yeah, it does seem like a foregone conclusion, though.
I'd be very surprised if over 5 rounds, Rose wasn't able to establish that she's the better fighter. I think the only thing that makes it interesting is that there's so few real wrestlers in that division that it can be a little tricky to kind of get the context of things a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Although the time they spent in the Ultimate Fighter house together, obviously having the fight before and having evolved so much since then, while Esparza's only kind of gotten, into the realm of refining existing skills. Yeah, refined versus evolution.
Exactly.
Even though it's a foregone conclusion in our minds, Esparza deserves it. You've got the rematch angle, and for fuck's sake, Dana, just let the fight happen.
Sometimes you've just got to trust the rankings. You make them, you put the fighters in this position. If you're going to bump Carla up to basically the highest opponent that hasn't just lost to Rose or Wei Li, do it. Just make the fight. And if you don't like it that much, just get it out of the way. Stick it on a, like a card that you're not that interested in. A throwaway card. Fuck, I mean, Valentina Shevchenko's defended a belt a couple of times on fight nights.
Yeah.
You really don't like it? Stick it on a fucking fight night.
Yeah, do you know what? I think as well he doesn't like Esparza because without directly complaining about fighter pay, she has been very vocal about her financial situation. Do you remember like a while back now, she had to sell the Harley that she won on the Ultimate Fighter as well, just because she didn't have any money.
That's a shame.
So when she sits out, it's for a good reason.
Yeah. Well, she's not on a big contract, is she? They probably gave her one decent pay grade for when she won the belt and defended it, and then she probably dropped back down to a mid-level contract after that.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, man, I think we'll call it quits for the episode. So right there, everybody enjoy the fights coming up this weekend. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. Until then, bye Dave, bye Laurie, bye Trifo.
Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave.
Peace out, mate. Have a good one.
Bud.